So, what happens when the most famous financial advice in the world actually ends up costing you money?
Yeah, it's a wild thought, right?
It really is. Today, we're opening the hood on just a massive cultural phenomenon. I mean, we're looking at Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, specifically those legendary 7 baby steps.
Which, for millions of people, it's not just advice, it is basically financial gospel.
Exactly. So our mission for you today is to really understand the deep mechanics and the psychology of these 7 steps. Like, why do they work so incredibly well for pulling people back from the brink of bankruptcy?
Right. But we're also going to explore where modern financial experts push back hard on these rigid rules,
Right.
especially when it comes to long-term wealth building.
Yeah, and to do that, we've gathered a pretty big stack of sources. We're pulling from Ramsey's own curriculum to get the core message, obviously,
hmm
but we're layering that with academic research on debt payoff strategies by Evan McAllister, some really sharp critiques from certified financial planners like Donovan Brooks.
Which get pretty intense.
Oh, definitely. Plus, we've got credit liability breakdowns from the Points guy and this really fiery Reddit debate where real people are just wrestling with the math versus the emotion of all these rules.
So whether you're, say, a freelancer with a really variable income, just trying to survive a debt crisis,
Mm.
or you're a super stable earner looking to, optimize generational wealth, this deep dive is going to reveal the psychological levers operating in your wallet every single day.
Which is so important. But before we even get to the famous baby steps, the entire foundation relies on one specific concept, the zero-based budget.
Right. And a zero-based budget just means your income minus your outgo equals exactly zero.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I like to think of a zero-based budget as like being the CEO of a company.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and every single dollar you earn is an employee. So if you don't give an employee a highly specific job before the month even begins, whether that job is, buy groceries, pay off debt, or fund a vacation, the employee is just going to wander off and do nothing.
Exactly. You lose the money and you don't even know where it went.
Yeah.
And that wandering off is actually what behavioral economists call passive spending. I mean, why do so many people stay trapped in financial stress even when they earn a great salary?
Right, because you see people making 6 figures who are totally broke.
Yes. It comes down to these hidden behavioral patterns. When you just swipe a piece of plastic, the money sort of vanishes into the ether. You don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But a zero-based budget forces active engagement. It forces you to secure your 4 walls first.
The 4 walls being food, shelter, clothing, and transportation.
Exactly. Once those are safe, then you direct the rest of your resources.
But, people hear the word budget and they just recoil.
Oh, totally.
There's this huge limiting money belief that a budget is a financial straitjacket. Like it means you can never go to a restaurant ever again.
Right. But the necessary mindset shift here is realizing that a budget doesn't restrict your freedom. It actually buys your freedom.
Yeah.
And to enforce this new behavior, Ramsey uses a highly effective psychological tool called the envelope system.
Oh, right. The cash envelopes.
Yeah. So you identify your budget-busting categories. Like, if you always overspend on groceries, you take the exact cash amount you budgeted for the month and put it in a physical paper envelope.
Just literal cash in an envelope.
Literal cash.
Yeah.
And when the cash is gone, you stop buying groceries. You just eat whatever is left in the pantry.
Okay, I understand the theory, but I have to push back here.
Sure.
What if someone just absolutely refuses to carry cash? I mean, in an era where so many of us run online businesses or rely on digital subscriptions, carrying hundreds of dollars around feels really risky and honestly kind of archaic.
Oh, it does.
So how does this actually apply to a modern cashless lifestyle?
Well, the Members Alliance credit union source we looked at addresses this beautifully. Because the core principle of the envelope system isn't the actual paper itself.
Okay.
It is the boundary setting.
Yeah.
It's triggering loss aversion. Handing over physical cash triggers this pain center in the brain that swiping a card just does not.
That makes sense. The
Yeah.
physical friction of it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can recreate that boundary digitally. You can use budgeting apps like Envelopes or Mint or Quicken that create these digital envelopes.
Oh, so if you try to overspend in a category, the app blocks you or alerts you.
Right. Instantly. So the medium can change, but the psychological boundary, that hard stop, must remain firm.
Okay. So that gives us our first actionable takeaway for you guys listening. Try the physical cash envelope system for just your next grocery trip.
Just one trip.
Yeah, feel the literal friction of counting out bills and see if it changes what you decide to throw in your cart. Ask yourself, What is your biggest budget-busting category that desperately needs a hard boundary?
It's a great exercise. And once that zero-based budget is hunting, you are ready to officially start the baby steps.
Here we go.
Yeah. And the first 3 steps are designed to happen in a very rapid, intense sequence to basically get you out of danger.
Right. So baby step 1 is to save a $1,000 starter emergency fund as fast as humanly possible.
Like sell things, take on freelance work, whatever it takes.
Just get $1,000 in the bank so a blown tire doesn't send you running back to a credit card.
Exactly.
Then, baby step 2, pay off all non-mortgage debt. And finally, baby step 3 is going back and building that starter emergency fund into a fully funded 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
And it's step 2, where the philosophical debate really heats up in the financial world, because Ramsey demands you use the debt snowball method.
Right, and the mechanics of the snowball method are straightforward, but they're kind of counterintuitive.
They really are.
You list all your consumer debts from the smallest balance to the largest balance, completely ignoring the interest rates.
Which drives math people crazy.
Totally crazy. So you pay the minimums on everything, but you take every extra dollar you can find and attack that smallest debt. When it's gone, you take that payment and roll it into the next smallest debt.
Right. And Evan McAllister's thesis from James Madison University analyzed Federal Reserve data on this. He pitted the debt snowball against the traditional mathematical approach, which is the debt avalanche.
And the avalanche method dictates that you pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first, working your way down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mathematically, paying the highest interest rate first saves you the most money and gets you out of debt the absolute fastest.
So why on earth would anyone choose the snowball method if the avalanche objectively saves them more money?
Because the brain does not naturally calculate compound interest. It calculates threat and reward.
Wow.
Yeah. McAllister's analysis confirms the avalanche is mathematically superior, sure. But the snowball method offers massive psychological benefits in motivation.
Oh, because when you clear that first small debt, your brain gets a dopamine hit.
Exactly. It creates
Yeah.
momentum. Look, debt creates financial slavery, and escaping it requires a drastic behavioral shift. For someone who's drowning in 5 maxed-out credit cards, behavior modification is vastly more important than interest rate optimization.
Right. If you don't fix the behavior, the math doesn't even matter. But if we look at the critique from certified financial planner Donovan Brooks, he argues that generalized advice gets you general results.
Mm-hmm.
Brooks says that if you, the listener, are a highly disciplined person who doesn't actually need that emotional dopamine hit of a quick win, using the snowball method is essentially donating extra money to a bank.
He makes a very compelling point there. You have to ask yourself, are you a rational optimizer, or are you a human being needing emotional momentum right now?
Yeah.
The limiting belief to remove here is that debt is purely a math problem. For most people, it's a behavioral problem. But, if you do have the discipline, the avalanche keeps more wealth in your pocket.
So a reflective question for you to consider. Are you motivated more by quick emotional victories or by the logical satisfaction of knowing you are paying the absolute mathematical minimum to a lender?
Right. And if step 2 is about sacrificing mathematical efficiency for emotional wins, what happens when we carry that exact same emotion-first mentality into the wealth builder phases?
Which brings us to baby steps 4 and 5. Step 4 is investing 15% of your household income into retirement accounts. And step 5 is saving for your kids' college via tools like a 529 plan.
Which is just a tax-advantaged investment account specifically for educational expenses.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. Ramsey demands that you completely pause all investing while you are in step 2 paying off debt.
Yep. No retirement contributions at all.
None. And Donovan Brooks and a lot of other financial planners strongly push back on this pause, because if you pause your investing, you are likely missing out on your employer's 401k match.
And an employer match is literally a 100% return on your money the second you invest it.
Right. Let's break down the actual math on that, because it's staggering.
Yeah.
If you make $60,000 a year and your company matches 5%, that is $3,000 of free money annually.
Free money.
Yes. So if it takes you 4 years to pay off your student loans using Ramsey's intense focus, you just walked away from $12,000 of free money.
Oh, it hurts to even think about.
And it gets worse. At a historical 7% return over 30 years, that missing $12,000 could have grown into nearly $100,000 in your retirement portfolio.
Whoa.
You are basically paying $100,000 for the emotional comfort of closing your debt a few months faster.
That is the real danger of dogma. The strict rule prioritizes absolute focus on debt over mathematical reality. And speaking of mathematical reality, we need to address the expected returns on those investments. Because Ramsey has famously claimed over the years that investors can confidently plan on a 12% average return in the stock market.
See, whenever I hear 12% returns, I immediately think I'm going to be incredibly wealthy.
Right. It sounds amazing.
So why is Brooks throwing cold water on that number in our sources?
Because it completely ignores the silent killer of wealth, which is inflation. Brooks breaks down the reality of the S&P 500.
Which is simply an index tracking the 500 largest companies in the U.S., right?
Exactly. It's generally used as a benchmark for the stock market.
Yeah.
So if you look at a 10-year period from 2013 to 2023, the return was around 13%.
Huh.
But when you adjust that for inflation, the real return drops to about 10.2%.
No.
And if we zoom out to a 30-year period from 1993 to 2023, the inflation-adjusted return is actually around 7.33%.
Okay, let's make sure we understand the mechanics of inflation here. Why does adjusting for it matter so much when projecting retirement?
It matters because of purchasing power.
Right.
Imagine a loaf of bread costs $2. If your investments grow by 10% in a year, you feel richer, sure.
Yeah, you have more dollars.
Right. But if the cost of that bread and your housing goes up by 3% that same year, your actual increase in wealth, your ability to buy things, only went up by 7%.
Because things cost more.
Exactly. So if you build your entire retirement projection believing your money will compound at a 12% rate, you are going to arrive at retirement with significantly less buying power than you expected.
And if you think you're making 12%, you might also think it's perfectly safe to pull out 8% a year to live on during retirement.
Which is exactly what Ramsey has touted, an 8% safe withdrawal rate.
Wow.
Yeah, and nearly all financial professionals warn that this is dangerously high. Most financial planners recommend the 4% rule.
4%, right.
Because if you withdraw 8% and the market has a couple of down years early in your retirement, you run a very real risk of completely draining your portfolio before you die.
And nobody wants that. So the main lesson for steps 4 and 5 is that past performance does not guarantee future results, and inflation silently eats into your real returns. A better mindset to build is to base your retirement math on conservative, inflation-adjusted realities, not best-case scenarios.
Absolutely. And that conservative approach to risk leads us directly into the final 2 baby steps.
Right, where the philosophical divide between Ramsey and modern finance reaches its absolute peak.
Oh, without a doubt.
So, baby step 6 is pay off your home early. And baby step 7 is build wealth and give generously.
Okay, let's look at a real-life dilemma we pulled from that Reddit debate, because it perfectly captures the tension of baby step 6.
Yeah, this was fascinating.
Right. So a 42-year-old user posts that they have maxed out their retirement accounts, they have a $60,000 emergency fund and a high-yield savings account, and their monthly expenses are covered.
They're in a great spot.
They really are. But here's the dilemma. They have a $575,000 mortgage locked in at an incredibly low 2.875% interest rate.
Wow, 2.8.
Yeah, sub 3. So the user is agonizing over whether to follow step 6 and throw every extra dollar at the house to pay it off, or just invest that extra money.
Well, if we look at the mechanics of leverage, putting extra cash into a 2.8% debt is mathematically inefficient.
Totally.
It's like voluntarily taking a pay cut. I mean, if your mortgage costs you roughly 2.8% a year in interest, but a totally safe savings account is paying you 4% in interest.
Right.
And the stock market historically pays 7 to 10%. Taking money that could be earning 10% just to save 2.8%?
Yeah.
It seems absurd to an optimizer.
It does. But the Reddit thread highlights the profound value of peace of mind. Some users argued that a paid-for house dramatically lowers your monthly risk. If you lose your job or your business fails, you don't have to worry about a bank foreclosing on your family.
Which is huge.
The psychological victory of owning the grass you walk on is immense.
It is. But the counter-argument on Reddit focused entirely on inflation. One user pointed out that average historical inflation over the last century is about 3.3%.
Okay,
So if your mortgage is locked at 2.8%, inflation is literally eating away the value of the debt faster than the interest is accumulating.
that's a great way to put it.
It is incredibly cheap money. Tying up hundreds of thousands of dollars in an illiquid asset like your house instead of letting it compound in the market is a massive missed opportunity for generational wealth.
And this divide between safety and optimization is even more glaring when it comes to credit cards.
Oh boy. The credit card debate.
Yeah, Ramsey absolutely despises them.
Mm-hmm.
He calls the rewards a complete mirage. He tells his audience to rely entirely on debit cards, claiming they offer the exact same protections as credit cards.
He actually says that.
He does. And furthermore, he suggests abandoning your credit score entirely. He says you should rely on manual underwriting.
Where a human being at a bank manually digs through your pay stubs and rent history to approve a mortgage rather than relying on a computerized score.
Right.
But how accurate is the claim that debit and credit cards offer the same protection?
Well, according to our source from the Points Guy, it is definitively false under federal law.
Okay, let's get into this.
The Electronic Fund Transfer Act dictates that debit cards and credit cards do not have the same protections.
So let's walk through the mechanics of a theft to understand why that matters so much.
Sure. If your credit card is stolen and a thief buys a $2,000 TV, you just click fraud on your app.
Oh.
Federal law caps your personal liability at exactly $50, and most banks waive even that.
Because you are using the bank's money.
Exactly. So the bank fights to get it back while your actual checking account remains completely untouched.
And with a debit card?
With a debit card, that $2,000 is pulled directly and instantly from your actual checking account.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the next day, your mortgage auto-drafts and bounces. Now you have overdraft fees, a late mortgage payment, and you are fighting the bank for up to 60 days to prove it wasn't you, just to get your own money back.
That's a nightmare.
It gets worse. If you don't report the debit fraud within 2 days, your legal liability jumps to $500. If you miss it for 60 days, you have unlimited liability.
Wow.
So from a pure risk management perspective, a debit card exposes your liquid cash to immense danger.
Not to mention, avoiding credit entirely means letting your credit score vanish.
Right.
Brooks points out that no credit score means higher insurance premiums, tougher background checks for renting apartments, and just far fewer options when you do need to navigate the modern economy.
This is exactly why our sources contrast Ramsey's debt-first discipline with alternative frameworks, like Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Oh, I like his approach.
It's very different. Sethi's approach focuses on automation rather than strict deprivation. You set up systems so your investments and bills happen automatically.
Right, and if you're disciplined enough to pay your credit cards in full every month, Sethi encourages you to harvest those rewards points for travel.
Yeah, and to spend extravagantly on things you love, provided you cut costs mercilessly on things you don't.
So what does this all mean? We've covered the active engagement of a zero-based budget, the emotional momentum of the debt snowball, the hidden dangers of inflation on long-term investing, and the fierce debate over cheap mortgages and credit card liability.
Well, to synthesize all of this, Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps are truly unparalleled for forcing behavioral change. They break bad habits, they instill the power of delayed gratification, and they rescue people from terrifying debt spirals. The emotional power of these steps cannot be overstated for someone who lacks financial discipline.
But, as our sources demonstrate, once you establish that discipline, generalized advice only goes so far.
Exactly.
Strictly adhering to rules like pausing employer matches or expecting 12% returns or rushing to pay off a sub 3% mortgage that can actually hinder long-term wealth building.
Right.
Financial peace isn't just about having zero debt. It is about understanding the mechanics of your wealth so deeply that you have options.
Absolutely. And, here is a final thought to mull over, one that wasn't covered in our sources today but extends directly from this psychology. If our financial behavior is this deeply driven by physical friction, like the pain of handing over cash or the tangible boundary of an envelope, how is the rapid rise of invisible, frictionless payments going to rewire the next generation's concept of debt?
Oh, wow.
I mean, when you could buy a car or fund a vacation by simply double-tapping a smartwatch without ever even seeing a dollar sign, how do we build the necessary friction to stop passive spending?
That is a really profound question.
So take a hard look at your own money habits this week and ask yourself, which financial rule is serving your peace of mind and which rule might actually be holding your wealth back?